Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. On today's tutorial we are cutting a pant trouser for a female. So for this cutting you'll be needing 1.5 yard of fabric. That's enough. I'm cutting high waist female pant trouser. So I've just gone to lay my fabric together in two because I'm having two front panel and I'm laying it all together. So I'm going to be removing 1 inches upward. As you can see, that 1 inches I'll be adding extra band to the trouser after sewing. So I'll be adding extra band of 1.5 inches, so the sewing allowance will be like ½ inch. So that's the 1 inch I'm removing. So I just went on to take my measurements. I used length 42 inches and allowance 1.5 inches, which makes it 43.5 inches altogether because this is an high waist pant. So remember, I removed 1 inches upward. If I had the 1 inches, like if I just measure it straight, that will give me 42.5. So the next thing I just want to do now is take measurements from my waistline, which is my starting point line. I'm going to be taking 11 inches downward to form my crotch. I'm using 11 inches basically because this is high waist pant, so it has to be longer. Normally I use 8.59 inches for myself. And remember that I used 11 inches and I said I'm still going to add a band to the waist of this trouser, so it's going to be a total of like 12.5 at the end of everything. So on this waistline I measured 2 inches and I'm going to connect the line to the thigh line. So I'm just going to connect the lines together. This 2 inches is just to give my pants a shape because the waist is tiny and the hip is bigger than the waist, obviously. So I just wanted to have like a cuff at the side. That's the essence of the 2 inches I removed on the waistline. And on the thigh I did not remove anything. I just marked ½ inches to remove the rough edge. That was the only thing I did on the thigh. So I just went on to like make a small cuff at that end. It doesn't have to be really sharp. If you have French cuff, you can actually use it to make that cuff. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to take my waist measurements. I'm using waist 26 divided by 4 is 6.5 inches. So from my 2 inches I'm taking another 6.5 inches from the 2 inches, and I'm going to be adding 1 inch allowance, sewing allowance, to hit on the waistline. So that makes it 7.5 altogether. So the next thing I want to do now is I'm going to take the whole measurement I have on my waistline. I'm going to measure it from where the allowance stops and I'm going to put it back on the thigh line because I want to have a straight line from the waist. Whatever I have on the waist, I'm bringing it down to the thigh line and I'm just going to have a straight line just like that. So I'm just going to rule out a straight line to whatever I have on the waist. Just bring it back down there and just rule it out. So the next thing we are going to do now is our thigh measurements. We are going to divide it by 2 inches. I'm using thigh 26. That's not my actual thigh. My actual thigh is like 22, but I want this pants is like a free pant trouser. I don't like slim pants because I am slim already. So I just went on to use 26 inches and then I divided it by 2. That's 13 inches. So I'm just going to make a cuff connecting the waist together to the thigh. So I just went to, that's what we call the crotch. So I just went to make my crotch. And the next thing we want to do now is on the parts where our length stops, we are going to take 1 inches inward. I just want to give it a simple shape at the side. I don't want it to just go down straight. So I just gave it a simple shape and I took 1 inches inward and I'm going to connect the 1 inches to my thigh line. So I just went out to rule the 1 inches and I'm going to connect it like that to my thigh line. that is that. So the next thing I want to do is I want to take the pant of this trouser is free. It's more like a palazzo pant. Okay, so I'm not just going to use my ankle measurement, I'm going to use a free size. So I decided to use 11 inches for the freeness of this pant. So I went on to use 11 inches and I just marked my 11 inches after the 1 inches. So together with the 1 inches now is 12 inches. So I just went on to mark 11 inches. So I'm just going to connect the 11 inches line together. I just want to connect the 11 inches line together, and afterwards connect it to my thigh, to where my thigh measurement is on. So I just went to connect it to where my thigh measurement is on. So at the end of the day, this is what we have. And I think with this we are done with the front pattern for our pant trouser. I hope you guys followed, because I'm sorry the chalk is not really showing very well. I would work on this in my next video. Really sorry about that, but if you follow this video you would be able to understand everything I said. So these 2 inches for shaping, and we removed 1 inches at the down part. We joined it to the thigh, and then we measured 11 inches and then connected the 11 inches to our thigh line. So that was all we did for the front panel. So we are just going to cut it out like that. Cut it out. I'm just using my hand to trace it out because the chalk is not really clear. So I just went on to cut it out carefully. Kindly subscribe, like, and drop your comments if you have any question at all, and if there's a video you'd like me to make in my next tutorial, kindly indicate so I can work on it and make the video. So this is my front panel. This is what I have for my front panel. I have a tiny waist, I have a big thigh. So I just went on to measure 7 inches at this side. This 7 inches is where my pockets will be. 7 inches by 1.5 inches. That was what I measured. 1.5 inches as width, 7 inches as length. That is where my pockets will be. My pockets will be slant. It will be in slant form, just like they make it in pant trousers. So this is how my pockets will look like, but I'm still going to iron a stay on it. So we are going to get there. So at the other side, I'm also going to measure 7 inches. That other 7 inches is for the part that will be adding my zip and everything, because this pant trouser will have a zip at the front, not at the back or at the side. So I have a video on how to add zip to the pants. If you would like to watch, you can check it up. I'll link it in the description below. And then I'm going on to cut my back piece, my back pattern for this trouser. The only difference between the back pattern and the front pattern is, remember why we are cutting the front pattern, the only place I added my allowance to is the waist. So on the back pattern, we'll be adding the extra thigh allowance, the other allowance. That's where we're going to add it to. Though the pant I'm making is a free pant and it doesn't really have to like need allowance and sort of, but in case you're working with a pant that's not free and it's just fitted, you need to add all of this allowance, because after stitching, this allowance will help you to still have your accurate measurement. So I just went on to add 1.5 inches down here, 1.5 inches, and I'm going to connect it to this thigh. On my thigh I have 2.5 inches, this thigh line here. So I'll be taking 2 inches on the waist side, 2 inches, and I'm going to connect the 2 inches to the 2.5 inches on the thigh line. So I just went to make the crotch like it is in the front, and the 1.5 I'm also going to connect it to the thigh line. So that serves as the allowance that we need to stitch. We are going to stitch it at the side and also at the crotch side. So we need this allowance to have the actual measurements that we need, so the trouser won't be tight at the end of the day. So on this upper side of the waist, I'm going to be adding 1.5 inches. This is because the the buttocks I don't want to use bum, the buttocks will take its own space, and we don't want it to choke us when the buttocks is going to take extra space at the back. So this 1 inches is just for the buttocks to have a place to sit well. So I'm just going to slant that line, the 1.5 inches, to the actual waistline. So we are just going to slant it and then cut. So the other side of this pattern would be the same, exactly the same as it is. No allowance. All the allowance is done on this front pattern. So I'm just going to be cutting it out, slant it to the original fabric. So we are just going to cut out what we have skirt. So this part, we are going to cut it exactly the way it is on the front. All the allowance is made on the other side, not this side of the fabric. So I'm done cutting. This is our front piece pattern and this is our back pattern. Can you see that the back is wider than the front because we added extra? This is my pocket. I have 2 of it because we're having 2 pockets, and this I took 14 inches length by 14 inches width. So you're just going to cut 2 of that, 14 inches by 14 inches. So I also have, because I used another fabric for my pockets, I used a plain white fabric while the actual fabric I'm working with is off white. So I just went to cut like a pieces that I'm going to join on the pocket, so the white will not be showing. It will still look like I used my actual fabric. I'm going to drop a sewing tutorial for the pocket so you guys can see how I made that. So this last one is for the zip part. It's also in the sewing tutorials. You can watch if you'd like to know how I made it. So the next thing the last thing I guess that we have to cut is the band. So I'm just going to stitch this together because my remaining fabric is not up to the length I need for band. Remember, the waist is 26 inches and I'm just going to add like extra 6 inches, so that's like 32 inches. So I just have to make this fabric like 32 inches long by 4.5 inches wide. So I'm just going on to take my collar stay. This is a soft collar stay, not the hard one. So I just went on to take my collar stay and I'm going to be cutting 1.5 inches by 32. Remember, the band is 32 inches plus the 6 allowance, so it will be 1.5 inches. I'll notch it and I'll tear it straight down, so I'll make it 32 inches. So I'm just going to take my iron and I'm going to press it on the I'm going to press the stay on the fabric and make it stay well. You are going to see how I did this in the